How does it feel to sit on that side and be a guest on your podcast?
Feels a little intimidating, but I'm sure you will make it easy for me. There's always a power change every century. There's a rise and there's a decline. We spoke about Hamas,
Yeah.
which the idea believes that they're eliminating.
Okay.
But you can never eliminate. At the end of the day, it is love that was the answer. People have been listening a lot about the Iron Dome. What is the Iron Dome?
In all global news, you will see Africa being referred to as the continent Africa. There's very little news about particular countries until unless it becomes so global that it's affecting the superpowers.
Africa, like I said, rich in resources. Everyone wants a part of Africa, but no one wants to support that. Another thing China does is it creates a lot of debt trap.
Yep.
They would give you the loan in massive interest. They would deploy their employees,
Yeah.
their manpower, and they would take the resources back home. So this is what China does. China also believes that they're an expansionist country.
Yeah.
They want to get as much land under them as possible. Taiwan is another land that they would want. Luckily, we are not living in a unipolar world or a bipolar world. We are living in a multipolar world. Russia had the right to protect itself and attack Ukraine.
Yeah.
I'm not saying attack is a good thing,
Yeah.
but how else would you safeguard your interest? I'm always going to say narrative a lot because
Right.
it is at the end of the day.
Yes.
It is a story made by people to believe, right? Sometimes the media, sometimes the political party.
Allegedly.
India, I would say, in terms of ethics, are quite strong. We would never start a conflict, or we would never put someone down, but always support.
Right.
We always collaborate.
Welcome to a unique episode of Diary for Publisher. Today we are switching things up as my close friend and brother, Arjan Bedi, turns the tables to interview me on the world of geopolitics. This isn't your typical breakdown. We are diving into global issues with a fresh, straightforward perspective that makes sense to everyone. We'll be covering everything from the tense possibilities of an Israel-Iran conflict, the upcoming US elections, the exploitation of Africa's resources, China's debt trap diplomacy, and India's role in building global peace. Why should this matter to us? Because understanding geopolitics isn't just about world events. It helps us all make more informed decisions in our lives. By grasping the bigger picture, we become better equipped to interpret news, understand policy, and even shape our personal and professional perspectives. This is not a rigid lecture, but a conversation that shapes my insights from all the fascinating voices I have featured on Diary for Publisher. We're here to make geopolitics cool again without taking sides and with a balanced outlook. And hey, if we miss out a few details, please bear with us. This is all about creating and engaging dialogue. At the end of the day, we're here to remind you that while wars are raging, love and peace remain the only true solution. So sit back, stay curious, and let's make sense of the world, one conversation at a time. Without further ado, let's get started. Before we dive into today's conversation, I just wanted to take a quick moment. We looked at our analytics and noticed that 93% of you who watch our videos regularly aren't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying our content and want us to keep going with more insightful conversation, we'd really appreciate if you could take just a second to subscribe. It might seem like a small action, but it goes a long way in helping us grow and bringing even more amazing content your way. Thanks for your support. It means the world to us. Now let's get back to the video.
Mr. Shivam Arya, welcome. Welcome to GOAP.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sitting on the other end now today. We'll be asking you a few questions. How does it feel to sit on that side and be a guest on your podcast?
Feels nice. Thank you for doing that for me. Actually, always wanted to sit here and see how it feels. Feels a little intimidating, but I'm sure you will make it easy for me.
Yeah, the questions are very easy. We're just going to give a quick catch up on geopolitics and our nation. If you see today's youth, they're not very much interested in all this. To create some awareness and some interest, I wish that this podcast will create that interest in some people.
Arjun, that's correct. When you say geopolitics, people, get scared of the word geopolitics, but it is an essential part of everyone's lives. We'll get into that. But before we speak about geopolitics, I must say a few things. Geopolitics is a subject which changes in a very fast pace. It's very dynamic. Every second you'll see new news that changes the dynamics of relationship. Some rules of geopolitics is that there are no friends in geopolitics. There's no enemies in geopolitics. It always changes because of the dynamic, like I said. Another point I want to make is that geopolitics is something which is based on narratives. Every person, there are always two sides of the coin, and there are always two narratives of a situation. We at DOAP don't mean to take sides when it comes to narratives, but just present information in terms of India. These are the few things I want to talk about. And yeah, I'm sure you will bring out more information on it.
Yes. As you mentioned about India, we can start with India first. Let's talk more about our nation first, then we can address the global situation. About India, what are your views about India being an emerging global power as we have seen in the past, this decade versus the previous decade? You'll see a major change in India becoming a global power. How do you see that map going forward, and how do you see the current situation?
So when we talk about geopolitics, the main stakeholders of geopolitics are the leadership. In our case, it's the PM, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it's his third term now. And he was at it from the first beginning of his first term. We used to joke around a lot that PM Modi travels a lot. Rightly so. It was important, for that matter. Why he traveled was to create good relationship with the rest of the world. And I don't know if people like Narendra Modi or not. I think he's done great for India to put us on the global map. For example, his first term was to strengthen our ties with West Asia, which we see a problem at the moment in terms of conflicts that are happening there, mainly around Israel, which we'll talk more about. The first term was more about being close to West Asia. He got a lot of accolades, a lot of presence from the leadership of West Asia. The second term, I feel he focused more on the West. With the EU, with the US, try to create good relations. He had 2 visits to the United States. That's very rare for an Indian president. But he was trying to create good relationship with the US. He became a member of the Quad. Quad, as you know, is an integral part of the global dynamic these days, because there's a narrative that Quad aims to counter China. But PM Modi says, no, listen, it is for our economical and technological transfer and growth. And that's what we look at. Now, third term, like we said right now, you said, how is India placed at the moment? We have been seeing as a messiah for the rest of the world. We've been seeing as the voice of the global south, like we say. G20 we had organized recently. We organized the G20 last year. And we did a great job by including a lot of countries which weren't a part of it initially. When we speak about G20 was never taken seriously until 2008, the financial crisis that we saw in the United States. Before that, it was just, a place where people could come and chill. Now, we see giving it more importance when the main leadership of countries are involved in it as well. And like I said, India did great because it included a lot of different countries to be a part of it, especially the continent of Africa. And again, we'll talk about Africa later. But we are seen as the voice of the global south. Now, this term, I feel Modi ji should focus on our neighborhood. A lot of people would agree with me when I'll say that India's neighborhood is in a turmoil right now. We see a situation in Bangladesh. We are seeing situation in Pakistan. We don't have good relations with China. Bhutan, Maldives for that matter, and Sri Lanka, like we saw the financial crisis 2 years ago. So this is the situation at the moment. We must, the first rule of geopolitics is to always cater to your neighborhood. It's a saying, right? That neighborhood is the most important thing. And that's what our policy should be in this year, in this term of Modi. And because, like I said, there's a lot of problems in Bangladesh. There's a problem about the leadership change. And there's a lot of narrative of India out. We are perceived as a big brother. And with the kind of time we are living in, no one likes to be a younger brother or a big brother. But no one wants a big brother. We could be like friends. That's what the aim should be. And the good part about our neighborhood is that we share a lot of soft power with them.
Right.
We have a historical significance, we have cultural significance, and of course the language as well. We have a very similar kind of dialect,
Right.
similar kind of ethics, similar kind of culture with our neighborhood. But there has been a lack between our communication and how they perceive us. So this is where our state of a relationship is in our neighborhood. Again, China is a problem. Everything that I would mention today won't be justified if I won't mention China into it. Every conversation we would have in different regions, China is a major player in today's time. There's a ever evolving, changing dynamics of power, which happens every century. I would say there's always a power change every century. There's a rise and there's a decline. The recent most rises of the United States, as we all know, as a superpower, and I feel there's eventual decline as well. That's the story of life, and that's the story of geopolitics as well.
Right.
Before that, there were the Dutch. Before that, there were the British who rose, and then they fell as well. So that's where we at in terms of India. You could throw me other questions if you want. This is the state of India at the moment.
Right. So I think
I would. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you here as well. These are the external problems, but of course, there are a lot of internal problems that come for us as well. The different regions in our country, which want like a autonomous government for themselves.
Exactly.
There's an issue in Northeast that we see.
Right.
Kashmir is always a problem.
Yeah.
And Punjab is a problem for that matter. So we have to be really, smart in how we deal with all these internal and external problems. And maybe through your questions, I'll bring more into it.
Perfect. So that's what I was going to get to, the internal relations and internal problems that we are facing right now as a nation. I won't even call the states a problem. I would say that the states are facing a problem. And the problem with, if you take it right now, Kashmir just had their elections. If you followed that whole narrative of Kashmir having the elections after 10 years, what's going to happen? BJP, NC and Congress, PDP. So if you follow all that, you see that they do want to be very inclusive of the fact that there's an election happening, and they're very happy about an election happening after 10 years. But moreover, they are also wanting Article 370 and autonomy to come back to the state. So do you think that would affect the current relations with the central government? Or do you think that's something that will probably they'll come to some solution or some form of, you could say, understanding amongst both?
See, as of now, again, I'll bring this point to the narrative building. There's a lot of narrative pushed by Pakistan in Kashmir through the militancy and the supply of drugs and whatsoever. But again, as of now, this is not a worry for us because the Article 370 is abolished. And that's what matters at the moment. There were fair elections. NC emerged victorious. And let's see how they transform the situation in Kashmir. There is a lot of... there's a massive gap at the moment in terms of how a state should run and how the state could be. And when there's a new power, you see changes, and that's what we should hope for.
Perfect. Hopefully, yes. You talked about our neighborhood, so I want to touch a few points on our neighborhood as well. First and foremost, Pakistan. History of conflict, problem, troubled relations. So current situation with Pakistan, if there is something that you would like to add on top of what we already know or something new, I'd really like to know, or for you to speak about that.
When you speak about Pakistan, there are levels to it. And I don't know if I am the right person to go into levels, but I'll talk about what is essential.
We'll cover surface level.
Yeah. We know that the part of Pakistan was created because of the partition. And ever since there has been a sentiment of religion there.
Right.
There have been differences in the religious aspect. And because of that, there are always going to be problem. And Pakistan itself is in turmoil right now. There's a problem in Pakistan of leadership, a massive problem. The one problem in Pakistan is of the leadership.
Right.
Pakistan is, as you know, is always governed by the army, the armed forces. So what happens there is whenever there's a new leader elected, there's an ego boost of the leader in a couple of years. They come in as a support of the army.
Right.
But in a couple of years, there's always an ego boost and they feel that they are the boss now. But the army shows them who the real boss is every time.
Yeah.
So for the last maybe 20 years, 30 years, no one has completed a proper term of their leadership because there's always a coup. So that is one problem I see in Pakistan, that there is corruption. Of course, there's corruption in India as well.
Right.
But the corruption there is to another level.
Right.
They have so much loans from the rest of the world. US, the Saudi,
Right.
the UN, they get millions of loans, millions of dollars of loans, and they're unable to pay it back.
Right.
And that's what, there's a narrative of they going to get money from another nation just for a sport.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a good thing as well. They recently found an oil reservoir in Pakistan. So I don't know what the update is at the moment, but could be a possibility of, financial incoming for them from there.
Right.
So that's Pakistan. I don't want to touch a lot on Pakistan because they're not very significant for us at the moment. Of course, they are neighbors and we have a historical significance with them. But at the moment, in geopolitical terms, they are not very important.
Okay.
Could be in the future.
Not geopolitical, I'm talking about as our neighbor only. For us.
As a neighbor, they would always want to create problems for us.
Exactly. Okay.
That's what they're trying to do in Bangladesh as well, is what I feel.
Okay.
You know how Bangladesh is an important point here because Bangladesh is in the middle of our country.
Right.
If you see, it divides northeast to rest of the country.
Right.
And there's a trade corridor which connects northeast to India.
Right.
It's like a Siliguri corridor.
Right.
And very important part. It is also called the chicken's neck.
Right.
And it's only a 21 kilometer buffer zone, imagine. So at any point, either Bangladesh, if is influenced by Pakistan, or China, for that matter, because Arunachal is right there, could block this area for us. That's why it's important for us to have, our strength in that area, especially Bangladesh.
Right.
Now, Bangladesh, as we all know, ousted the prime minister.
Right.
And it was coming long time as well. Because PM Hasina again had a lot of ego. People used to call her as a dictator because there was a lot of unjust practices, killing of students, unfair elections, power dynamics. Even though Bangladesh was doing great under PM in terms of financial, economic hub, you see most of the things nowadays is manufactured in Bangladesh. Why? Because that's the kind of power they've created. They're trying to shift that economic strength from China and manufacturing in Bangladesh. So they did well economically for sure under PM Hasina, but of course the country didn't have great sentiments against in respect to Hasina because it was too strong of a leader. Of course, it was good for us. We have great relationship with PM Hasina. At the moment, she is based in New Delhi, if you were not aware.
Okay.
Because she's in New Delhi because she has some regard for India. India was there for her when no one was there for her. When her father was assassinated, she had to run. India is where she had run to. She was in Lajpat Nagar, in fact, for a good 4 or 5 years. In fact, she's even studied here.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have good relations with her. She always supported us. So she was a good thing for us in terms of Bangladesh. Now, she being ousted could be a problem. Again, there are a lot of narratives that Pakistan was involved or the US is involved.
Right.
But I would just blame the leader, PM Hasina, in that case. I would not say Pakistan was involved or the US involved. Why I would say that is because, it was so easy to take the situation that she created in terms of killing of some students. Could have been, she overlooked the situation. And because of her ego, this situation dragged on.
Okay.
This was quite avoidable situation, I feel. But now that she's gone, we have a new leader. We have an interim leader in Bangladesh, Yunus. He is a Nobel laureate,
Okay.
a smart intellectual person. But again, we don't know who is influencing the leader now.
Right.
I mean, Bangladesh is a great country, has a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
There could be an influence of Pakistan now, because of course they have a close relations with Pakistan. They were divided, right? The reason they were divided was because the West Pakistan was always taking advantage of East Pakistan. East Pakistan wasn't getting the right resources or the right respect at the one. That's why the 1971 war was based on this, the partition of East and West Pakistan, and India became a part of it as well.
Right.
So that's a little bit about Bangladesh.
Right now, you see the dynamic shifting from Israel only, the conflict being driven around Gaza. For now, it's expanding outward, and they have a conflict with Lebanon. They have a conflict with Iran, which is two countries away from them, and
2,000 kilometers away.
exact 2,000 kilometers and two full countries away from them. So, how do you see that panning out in the near future? And the near future, I mean, before the new year starts.
Before talking about the future, Arjan, I must tell you some basis of the situation.
Okay.
Before West Asia, there are a lot of conflicts happening around the world, not just the ones that we know.
Right.
A lot of ones in Africa as well. There are ones we are aware about Russia, Ukraine. We are aware about the one in Israel, Palestine, because this is what the news shows us.
Right.
But there are a number of conflicts happening, at least 45 conflicts around the world at the moment.
Okay.
That's how bad the state of our world is at the moment. Anyway, West Asia. West Asia is West Asia for us, for India. But it is the Middle East for the West.
Right.
The US sees it as Middle East.
Right.
So we will say West Asia.
Okay.
Now, West Asia has a lot of dynamics in terms of the historical significance and its religious sentiments. West Asia is divided into two parts in terms of religion. The Shia community and the Sunni community.
Right.
There's always been a conflict between two. And of course, the Jews as well.
Right.
That it covers the Israel. But the main issue in West Asia is between Shia and Sunni.
Okay.
And the leaders of Shia is Iran.
Okay.
And leader of Sunni is Saudi Arabia.
Right.
This is the situation here.
Right.
They've been fighting from ages.
Right.
About who would dominate the western side of Asia. Okay. There's always the part of dominance. Now, good for us or good for the rest of the world, China sat Saudi and Iran down and came up through a peace kind of conflict resolution.
Okay.
Because this has been running from ages now.
Yeah.
Now, there has been resolution, but we still see problems between the two communities in West Asia. Coming back to Israel. Why is Israel an issue?
Yeah.
Israel is an issue because of its religious sentiments.
Okay.
Israel is predominantly a Jewish state.
Right.
And it is somehow said that Jewish are always opposed by the Muslim community.
Right.
And that's what Iran has created a few proxies in the region. What proxy is, I would tell you a little bit about proxies. Proxy is an important thing because, there's some countries who do not want to fight their wars. So what they do is they create militancy and spread terror through that militancy in that area. So in this way, they're not getting their hands dirty, but they're doing the job. Right. We see a lot of proxies of Pakistan in Kashmir as militants, LET, JEM. Similarly, there are a lot of proxies of Iran in and around Israel. One of them is Hamas.
Okay.
Another one is Hezbollah.
Right.
And the third one is Houthis.
Okay.
Houthis are in Yemen, which is south of Israel. Hamas is in Palestine, which is just west of the state of Israel. And the north of Israel is Lebanon, which predominantly is run by the Hezbollah. Now, which is coming in the news lately a lot.
Yeah.
So the initial situation in Israel, the situation that we're seeing right now, started 1 year ago.
Okay.
7th October 2023, when there was an attack in the state of Israel. By the way, Israel, I must say, has a very strong intelligence. Their forces is very strong. And the reason of that the strength comes from the United States, which is a superpower at the moment. Now, people would ask, why does US support Israel so much? When the state of Israel was created in 1948, 47, there's a lot of Jewish inflow from EU and the rest of the world, which came in Israel, came into Israel to create a proper state for Jewish. But a lot of the rich Jews went to the United States as well. So it is looked at that the US economy and the politics is run by the Jews in the US. They are the billionaires. They run their politics. They finance the politics, and that is why they are so important. That is why every leader who would come in the US will have to back Israel, and Israel is very proud about that. Israel plays its card rightly when it comes to the US. They get best of the technological advancement, best of the military equipments, best of minds, best of security, and investments. So that is the situation. The US is always supporting Israel. For that matter, there's a 5th generation fighter jets that only the US has, not even Russia or China has them. And why they are so important is because these jets they can't be suspected on a radar. On a radar, it would look like a bird flying. So that is why it's important to have a 5th generation jet. India itself is looking forward to get them somehow. We are getting a deal from France for a 4.5 generation, but 5th generation still out of bounds. US keeps delaying the transfer of technology, but let's see how that goes. Now, it started with Hamas attacking Israel. Now there are a lot of narratives around it that the President Netanyahu is who's funded the attack. Because there's a lot of problems in terms of leadership in Israel when it comes to Netanyahu.
He wasn't favored very well before this war.
Even right now, there are a lot of opposition through it. But he knows if Israel is under a conflict, no one can oust me. And people say that the reason for this war is to continue his power. But again, it's a narrative. Like I'm always going to say narrative a lot because it is at the end of the day. It is a story made by people to believe, right? Sometimes the media, sometimes the political party.
Allegedly.
So that's what geopolitics is, funnily. So that was the first attack. And we've been seeing Israel brutally killing the Palestinians. And when I mentioned Israel to you, I said there's a historical significance. There's a lot of historical significance for Israelis as well as Palestinians. Israelis always feel the insecurity of safeguarding themselves. That's why there's a rule in Israel that every person will have to serve 2 years in the military. That's why they're very strong as well. Mentally and physically, they're strong because every man is a soldier. Every person in Israel is a soldier.
Every woman also is a soldier. They have to enroll.
So that's the case in terms of the situation and their insecurity. Palestinians have been struggling as well over the years. I have some friends in Palestine who have been, facing problems in terms of the brutality that Israeli forces create on them. The IDF. They're always under the pressure of IDF. So because of that, there are the other problem in Palestine and Israel is that any leader who has tried to solve the problem of a two-state has been assassinated on each sides. So the extremists of both the states never want peace. That is a problem here. Even though they would try for peace, but the extremists would pull you down. And the extremist narratives comes from Iran. The hatred that they are putting in
proxies.
The proxies. We spoke about Hamas, which they believe, Israel believes, the IDF believes that they are eliminating. But you can never eliminate. When you kill someone, right, their families are a part of it. The animosity that you were talking about continues through generations. So this is something that you never can cease to get. Only I'm going to be philosophical right now. At the end of the day, it is love that was the answer. Every situation can only be countered by love. Even though there's a lot of trauma, a lot of baggage that comes from the past or the religious aspect, the solution is always love. And if you can't kill and finish everyone to resolve the problem, it's never the solution. Now Hezbollah is in Lebanon. Now you see the same situation in Hezbollah. Now imagine Iran, a small country with about a very small population, is fighting in 2 to 3 fronts.
Yes.
Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Now, why is Iran being a part of it? Iran has always been insecure about fighting a war after its defeat with Iraq. There was the Iran-Iraq war.
Right.
And after that, Iran realized that, we don't want to put our hands dirty. Let's just play with proxies.
Right.
But very recently, Israel tried to reel them into the conflict by embarrassing them, killing the top leadership of Hamas, Hezbollah, in the state of Iran, with who had just met the supreme leader of Iran.
Right.
Imagine what kind of message Israel sends. Israel, like I said, has a massive intelligence. The technology that they have is intense. Like I said, their intelligence is also, it's called Mossad.
Mossad, yes.
And they are deeply engraved in the state of West Asia. So, and they're also considered very brutal in terms of the killings, the interceptions. Intelligence is a very, very complex situation. And what is intelligence? It is, for us, it's RNAW. For Pakistan, it's ISI.
Yeah.
For the US, it's CIA.
Right.
And many other intelligence that we wouldn't know about.
3-letter acronyms.
And similarly, Israel has Mossad. And they are one of the finest. Now, why did Israel want to reel in Iran? For multiple reasons. US always opposes Iran. There are plenty of sanctions on the Iran through US. Now, before I go further, what are sanctions? The game.
Viewers hear these terms, but not many of them are aware of what they mean.
So, the game of geopolitics is not just military. It is the diplomacy, the economics, and of course, security and the military. These are 3 major pillars of geopolitics. And important is the economics, which comes under the trade. So, since 91 liberalization, the world has been a free flow in terms of trade. There's a lot of trade happening and a lot of power dynamics because of the trade. And trade is very important in for a country. The export and the import both, because that's what sustains life, sustains businesses, sustains the individuals in a country at a very basic level. So the powerful countries, what they do is, because they have more things to export, they would put sanctions. They would say that, hey, listen, if you do that, I would not give you XYZ. I would not give you wheat. I would not give you rice. I would not give you arms. I would not sell you cars. So these are the sanctions imposed on countries. Like we see with Russia at the moment.
Right, exactly.
There are about 16,000 sanctions on Russia from the West. The EU,
UN,
the EU, the US. Sanctions. But funnily, they are still prospering. Anyway, that's another topic. So these are the sanctions put by the West. So the West always try to put Iran down because of the fact that they are, there's a narrative that they're trying to build as well. The Muslim leadership, the nuclear animations, like they want to be a nuclear power. They do nuclear tests. They have facilities for nuclear, not one. They've got multiple facilities for nuclear. But why I'm telling you about sanctions is because the US imposes sanctions on a lot of weaker countries to get things done for them accordingly. And that is the situation problem for US as well. Now, larger countries like China and Russia sees these trends, and they're trying to revolve that situation. We'll go towards the change in power dynamics later, but West Asia at the moment is important. So this is what is happening with Iran. Israel wanted to reel in Iran, and rightly did it as well.
Yeah.
Killed the leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah to show them, listen, if you mess with us, we can do that. We can kill your leadership. That's why Iran had to prove to them, listen, yaar, we are also someone. They had their missiles. Okay, the good thing about, it's funny that when I start saying something, another point comes to my mind, because it's so much. It's so dynamic. It's so many minute
Every
details.
Day there's something changing.
So Iran creates a lot of military equipment as well. And much cheaper than the West. And that is their stronghold as well. I don't want to name any missiles or any equipments that they make, but they have a stronghold as well. Their drones, their ballistic missiles. So they have that stronghold. So I see this attack from Iran on Israel as a test to test Israel's security, the different security that Israel has. I must mention,
it could even be a diversion.
Could be a diversion as well. Or could be the fact that they had to retaliate. After being embarrassed. They had no choice. People would lose faith otherwise. So they had to retaliate. Now, since we're speaking about this, people have been listening a lot about the Iron Dome. What is the Iron Dome? Iron Dome is nothing like a security of a country.
It's not a physical structure.
It's not a physical structure. It is a killing missile units on the ground that intercepts missiles. That intercept missiles before it is attacked on a particular surface. So Israel has a very strong, like I said, military equipments. They have 3 different defense systems. The main one is the Iron Dome, which came into news in the first attack of Hamas. That Iron Dome was inefficient. They have other defense system as well, which is further down their borders. It is called Arrows, if I'm not wrong.
Arrows is second.
Arrow 3. There are 2. Arrow 2 and Arrow 3.
Yes.
And then there's one more, which is name I'm forgetting. But what I'm trying to say is that the advancement of their military surveillance and security is that level. India yet to have something like that, because it is a costly affair. So this is the situation. Anything can happen in West Asia. Now the Israel is going to attack Iran for sure. There's no doubt. The reason they were killing the leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah in Iran was to reel in Iran, and they managed to do that. Now they have a reason to do it. They have a reason to attack, retaliate. And some people say this war could, it's a regional war right now. And that regional war could transfer into a world war. When people start taking sides, countries start taking sides. Now, US is always supporting Israel. Who is supporting Iran? It's Russia. But Russia is fighting its own war. China. Pakistan is a tricky country to be a part of, but because Pakistan, again, gets a lot of money from the US.
There's too much going on over there already.
They can't defend themselves. How would they defend others? But they are also expected to be a side of Iran.
In all global news, you will see Africa being referred to as the continent Africa. There's 50 countries in that continent. There's very little news about particular countries unless it becomes so global that it's affecting either the 3 superpowers or it's affecting some other. It's affecting EU, it's affecting the US, something like that. Only then that it starts coming up into the news. Otherwise, those 50 countries are just represented by one name, Africa. So that, there's something more to it.
Well said, Arjun. We always perceive Africa as a single country, but it is an amalgamation of 50 different small, big nations with different culture, different style, different languages, different food. And different leadership. Africa is a very troubled state as well. The subcontinent of Africa is very troubled. It has its colonial past. A lot of European countries had colonized Africa, massive chunks of Africa. France in north, Spain in the west.
Right.
East was under another European country. So and very rich in terms of minerals and resources. Africa is a very rich country in terms of resources.
Right.
But the resources have been, undermined and exploited. Exploited by a lot of different countries.
Yeah.
Even India has a massive part in Africa. We invest a lot in Africa. We have good relations. Like I told you before, that we included the subcontinent of Africa in G20. So it's G21 now.
Yes.
And thanks to India, that Africa is going to be a voice as well. When it comes to Africa, you very rightly said that they are divided, but yet we see them as a single entity.
Right.
That's because they have an association of African countries, like we have for EU.
Right.
Which has a similar currency, easy for trade. Even Africa has such an association. That is what would answer that. But of course, it needs a lot of understanding, because every country has a different style of working. Because you said Africa, there's a situation in Africa. I mean, there are a lot of regional wars happening. There's regional instability, civil wars that are continue to happen over the years. But I don't want to touch on that because I'm not very well versed with it. But what I would like to tell you is that Africa, everyone wants to take a part of. China has been investing so much in Africa because of the resources.
Yeah.
China, like I said, I'll mention again and again. China plays a 100-year marathon.
Yeah.
It's got a massive plan. And where does this 100-year marathon come from? I know I'm deflecting from Africa, but China went through colonialism as well. They were suppressed by the British.
Yeah.
And we were part of British at that time. So that's why they see us in that similar kind of light. We were oppressed by British, and Indians were part of it. So because of that 100-year oppression, they have created a plan to rule the world, to become a superpower.
Right.
And that is why they have a very minuscule plan. Like, they have a very minute, detailed plan how to reach there. They understand energy. Oh, by the way, we spoke about energy.
Yeah.
West Asia is rich in oil reserves.
Right.
But now you will see the shift in that. You will see the change, because it's more about natural gas now. People are running away from oil. Earlier, people used to talk about that how oil runs the world. Not anymore.
Yeah.
There's been a change. We have realized that it's, the world is changing in terms of resources.
Right.
We are trying to improve our state of global warming. How do we do that? We change our energy.
Right.
We have to change our energy. And because of that, West Asia, in terms of economy, will decline over the years, because there's so much oil, but no one would want to buy now. People are looking towards natural gas and natural energy. Africa has a rich abundance of such resources.
Yeah.
So people are looking towards Africa.
Yes.
Another thing Africa has are different minerals. One of the mineral is cobalt. And you, an expert of EV, would know how important cobalt is in electric vehicle.
Right.
It is the most important element in EV. If I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
China, another thing China does is it creates a lot of debt trap.
Yep.
We know the word debt trap, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
What they do is they give you the money, the resources, to open, to start production of any XYZ mine, let's say. Now, you are liable to them, right? Because they give you money, they give you billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now they will be like, okay, we have given you dollars. And of course, this loan has massive interests.
Exactly.
More interest than any other, the UN or the World Bank would give you.
Yeah.
Massive interest of 10 to 12% or more, I don't know. That is a problem. They would give you the loan in massive interest. They would deploy their employees, their manpower, and they would take the resources back home.
They'll tap the resources. Yeah.
So look at this. And when the country that they are giving their debt to will be unable to pay the debt,
Yeah.
they have a clause that they will take the resources as well. They will take the infrastructure they develop.
Okay.
That's what happened in Sri Lanka.
Right. The port.
They were managing the port
Yeah.
with billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka political system was doomed because they are corrupt. They finished the money that they got.
Right.
The infrastructure was being created by China.
Yeah.
They were unable to pay.
Yeah.
Now this port is under China.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's the clause. So this is what China does. And not just one place. These are such situations in a lot of different regions. Now China is an expansionist country. It has border disputes. It has border disputes with over 15 countries. Imagine. So they believe
in countries.
And China wasn't always the China that we see now.
Yeah.
China wasn't even the half of what China is right now. Tibet was a big size of what China was. The Republic of China took over a lot of part of Tibet. Massive history to it.
Yeah.
Let's not get into it.
Yeah.
Staying to Africa. Africa, like I said, rich in resources. Everyone wants a part of Africa, but no one wants to support them. But of course, lucky for us, they see India as a messiah and as a safeguarder. And rightly so. We do that. India, I would say, in terms of ethics, are quite strong. We would never start a conflict or we would never put someone down, but always support.
Right.
We always collaborate. That's always been the stance of India.
Yes.
Not just India, but Bharat as a subcontinent. We've always been a place of spiritually evolved people.
What is the current situation with South China Sea? We've got multiple nations within that span of the ocean, and all of them trying to somewhat get control of the waters so that their trade and the military both aren't affected. You have Malaysia, Indonesia, you have Vietnam, China, all of them trying to get a hold of this small portion of the sea. What are your views on that?
Arjun, again, very rightly said that South China Sea is an important part because that region under China is a massive trade route for a lot of countries.
Exactly.
A lot of countries export from that.
Yeah.
We, not a lot, but a lot of our shipments goes through the South China Sea.
Yeah.
South China Sea is a region which is very significant in terms of trade. And whoever controls the South China Sea controls the 60% trade of the world.
Exactly.
The 60% trade goes through South China Sea, connecting from the US, Japan,
right,
and then Taiwan, and of course, then it connects to our Indo-Pacific Ocean as well.
Yeah.
So that is the significance of that area. China wants to dominate that area. Why? Again, to rule the 60% of the trade. Whoever rules the trade routes is a winner in geopolitics. And that's what China wants to be. So what China has done is, there are a lot of rules and regulations of the ocean, of the maritime, that different how much kilometer is under your borders, and then it's international waters.
Yeah.
What China does is they have created artificial islands.
Yes.
To have the supremacy and power in the area. Imagine.
Make military bases on those
10 artificial islands with military bases, maritime bases of China.
Yeah.
To create a threat in that region. That is the level of situation there. So when you talk about South China Sea, this is one situation. And of course, intersecting South China Sea is another place called Taiwan.
Yeah.
Not directly, but a little north to South China Sea. China also believes that, like I said before, they're an expansionist country.
Yeah.
They want to get as much land under them as possible. Taiwan is another land that they would want. Taiwan has great manufacturing.
Yeah.
They have great resources. They have great technological advancement
Exactly.
in terms of semiconductors. So that is what, and US backs Taiwan.
Yeah.
One thing I want to tell to the viewers is that, like I said, narratives. Another thing important in geopolitics is the leadership. So every country has different leaders, someone opposing an ex-country and someone against, someone with the country. So it's always, that's why elections are so important in geopolitics.
Yeah.
And this year we saw 60 elections in 60 states, including India, and including the US in November, which is a superpower, which I believe is an important, decision for the Americans. So that is the importance of a leadership, because either of the parties would be backing either China or the US.
Yeah.
That's why it's important. Taiwan is important. Taiwan had elections as well, for that matter. And this is the situation in Taiwan and South China Sea. I didn't want to go deep into it, just for the viewers to know that why that there's a 9-dash line that they have created.
Yeah.
And 60% of trade goes through it, so it's an important part for sure.
You mentioned the elections, and we recently we're going to get into a phase of the US elections, which is going to be really big on a global scale, that everyone's eyes are on that election. So what do you think, with the current situation happening in Israel, current situation happening with China, with Russia, all of this encompassing it into, you could say, one entity, how do you think all of this is affecting the elections right now with the current power in this US versus the power that they're up against?
So when it comes to elections, the majority of intellect of the voters goes in the internal problems. They do not think a lot about external. There's a very small percentage of people who elect based on what the leader's stand is geopolitically. That is the situation. They would talk about the internal problems. People would care about the internal problems. When it comes to the US elections, there are two major parties. There's Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
Republicans the running is through Donald Trump,
Right.
a strong leader, for sure, in terms of geopolitics. And for Democrats, the leader is Kamala Harris. Earlier, it was Joe Biden, the current president of the United States. But rightly so, they switched to Kamala Harris. Now, while we speak about the US elections, I'll tell you a little about the current US elections. Trump, there's a failed assassination attempt on him.
Yes.
Because of that, there's a lot of sentiments of support with him. There's also a support of Elon Musk now. Very recently, he came up on a rally, and the way he spoke about Trump was on a level. He said that this is the only way you can save the democratic values of US is by supporting Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know what the level of truth there is, but that's maybe Elon Musk is scared if the Democrats come in, the freedom of speech would be reduced.
Narrative.
Everything's narrative. Now, when it comes to the Democrats, Kamala Harris, who's the running president, has another mindset. She is playing a different card. She's a woman. She's young. She has, personality that she's connecting with the youth. And, the US election system is very funny. There's an electoral board system that they fight for.
Yes.
Every state has an electoral board. And you basically vote for either Democrats or Republicans, red or blue. And then the final happens in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
That's the electoral system. Very funny. I don't want to get into it, but if you're keen, I have another podcast coming out next week, which talks about the US elections. Please have a look. So that's the system here. And of course, the leadership of the United States matters, because that is the superpower. That is the governing power in all conflicts. Funnily, you brought US. US is involved in Russia-Ukraine.
Right.
We'll get into that after this. US, like I said, is heavily involved in Israel. US is also involved in the looming conflict of South China Sea.
Yeah.
And that's the muscle of a superpower.
Exactly.
The idea of a superpower is having your capacity of your military in different regions.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? By enhancing, the army is strong, the navy is strong, the air force is strong as well. The air force is massive in the US.
Yeah.
The number one air force in the world is of the US.
Yeah.
The number two is by the US as well, by the navy. Imagine the navy is bigger.
Stronger than any other air force.
Navy's air force is bigger than any other air force. They've got about 12 to 14 aircraft carriers, and every aircraft carrier is about 100 planes.
Yeah.
1,200 right here.
Yeah.
Look at the strength of the Air Force. And that is why they are placed in so many regions.
Right.
Now Trump says, the moment I come to power, all the conflicts happening would go away. One call to Putin, I'll have great relations with Putin, I have great relations with XYZ. But how much of that is true?
Right.
I know he is a billionaire. His mindset is more towards money.
Yeah.
His mindset is more towards his benefits.
Right.
This is last term. After that, he can't run for elections, by the way, because of his age.
Yeah.
So if he becomes the president, imagine he's going to do it for himself. I feel so. I'm not taking sides here, but I feel if he comes as a president, he won't have a legacy to leave.
Yeah.
He'll come, benefit himself, benefit the Trump name, and go.
Yeah.
On the other side, Kamala Harris has a point to prove. She's young. She has a massive future ahead. She has seen a lot of such scenarios. She's the vice president.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not saying who is better, but I'm saying in terms of geopolitics, definitely Trump is a stronger leader. Trump has a capacity to have a chat with the top minds. The top minds is wrong. Top diplomats.
Yeah.
Modi is a strong, good friend.
Yeah.
Trump, even Kim Jong-un is a friend of Trump because they resonate with each other, don't they?
Yeah.
But that's the situation. And I mean, like, we could see a lot of change in the coming months because of the leadership in the United States. That's why it's important to have a strong leader of a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, luckily, we are not living in a unipolar world or a bipolar world. We are living in a multipolar world. We're not living in only bipolar. US is only unipolar. Only US is the strength.
Mm-hmm.
There's US, there's China, there's Russia, there's India.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
India was ranked third in the power dynamics at the moment. Recently, there was a report by one of the analysts, ranked third. Proud.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? Not just with your military, your diplomacy, your trade, your economics. So India has a great future.
With touching India again, so I just want to ask you another question. Recently, we had the UNSC Council meeting, and just for the viewers, UNSC is the United States Nations Security Council, of which India is not a part currently, right? There were a lot of nations that did, you could say, bid for us to join or promoted India to become a part of this. And do you have any views on how suddenly we have like the inclusion of India into such important councils and important meetings is being introduced? We just held the G20 this year. That was great. Now we're being pushed into the UNSC as well by other nations that are supporting India as a nation. So that inclusion.
I would correct you, Arjun, a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a podcast coming in with one of the ambassadors and top diplomats. And this question is what I brought into him as well.
Okay.
But he clarified that India was never offered to be a part of the UNSC.
Exactly.
People think we were, and we declined and said, no, let China take that spot. But that's not the case. Watch that podcast to get more clarity. Having said that, yes, of course, we are being a part of a lot of groups. We're part of BRICS, which is a big group as well. Mostly economical, but of course, it caters to a lot of things. We SCO, which is a Shanghai Cooperation, happened in Pakistan recently. Jaishankar recently went. Quad. Quad is a massive one with Japan, Australia, US, and India. Great way to showcase our power, our strength from technology, from coming from the West to us. A lot of people perceive that Quad is anti-Chinese.
Okay.
But Prime Minister rightly, even though we have a problem with China, we are so strong diplomatically that we won't say that, listen, we want to counter China. China was insecure for a while, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly said, this is not an anti-Chinese group.
Right.
So while we are being a part of a lot of different organizations, geopolitically, there's a long way to go.
Okay.
In terms of UNSC, United Nations Security Council is basically a monitor of the classroom. 5 strong countries, namely Great Britain, France, Russia, China, and the US. These are the 5 UNSC powers. Of course, India is speculated to be part of it.
Exactly.
But who comes out?
Okay, is that so? You can't have more than 5.
Either you could, or you will have to add other people as well. You have to think about Japan.
So then it opens up doors for everyone.
Yes, the other countries that we must think about then. But like I said, 5 people. Great Britain is a country which is going down economically, even for militarily. But who will want to come out of a superpower or status? No one would want to. And if any of the one opposes, they have the veto power.
Right.
So China would never want India to be on the same table.
Exactly.
Even if the rest of the 4 says, China would always oppose. If there's one country opposing,
veto,
then it's not happening. That's the situation here. To clarify, that was India ever offered UNSC? And Rajiv Gandhi said no. Watch that podcast, which is out. It was by Ambassador Fabian. A great conversation, a little slow, but great insights. What is the problem in Russia-Ukraine? According to me, the problem comes from the US.
Okay.
Again, like I said, every conflict has a historical significance. Some of them has religious significance as well. Russia-Ukraine is more historical. Before Russia was Russia, Russia was a massive part of USSR. There is a historical significance. USSR was broken down to make different parts of Soviet Union. And while that was happening, Russia had some terms. So basically, we haven't spoken about NATO. NATO is an alliance which was formed to counter Russia.
Right.
Openly. It's been 75 years now, but it was always formed to counter Russia. USSR then. Now, when the USSR broke down, I don't want to get into the history of that. Russia had an agreement with the United States and NATO that, listen, you will never expand the NATO. NATO is NATO.
Us.
Just you and the US. You are not going to expand coming onto more countries. Because what does expansion means? Expansion means that the NATO could put their arms and ammunition in the country they're expanding to. Bigger threat for Russia. That's what happened. Similar situation happened in 1970s, 80s when there was a Cuban Missile Crisis, if you remember. To counter that, Russia had sent their missiles to Cuba. US didn't like that. US didn't like that.
Too close to the borders.
Too close to the US. Why would you do the same thing in Ukraine? You don't understand that, right? So that is why Russia had the right to protect itself and attack Ukraine. I'm not saying attack is a good thing, but how else would you safeguard your interest? Ukraine wanted to be a part of NATO, but there was a deal, not a written agreement, but a verbal one that they would not expand NATO, but they have been expanding.
Okay.
And Ukraine is too close to Russia to expand.
It's on the border.
That means that you can keep your ballistic missiles in Ukraine.
Exactly.
And attack Russia whenever you want. Russia has always been a threat to the US. Not as much anymore. Not as much anymore.
Yeah.
But there has been a threat. So this is the situation in Ukraine. US brought in a situation that, trying to reel in Ukraine to be a part of NATO to be more secure.
Yeah.
NATO is nothing but a joint security forces.
Mm-hmm.
Any problem in this region, everyone will pool in money.
Right.
There's forces from every country. There's resources from every country. Of course, you're always stronger than one, right?
Yeah.
If you're part of about 30 countries, you're stronger than one. That's the idea of NATO, to counter any other threat, any other conflict that could be looming. And that is the situation in Russia and Ukraine. It's been over 2 years now that we've been seeing this war. 2 years. Now, recently, Ukraine got a piece of Russia as well.
Yeah.
That is nothing more than but to get a better deal. At the end of the day, it's deal.
Yeah.
It's the end of the day, it's power dynamic. How much power do I have over another person to foster a deal which is better for me? Russia has a lot of strengths as well. They have a general called General Winter.
Okay.
Which means that winter in Russia is so brutal that if you take a part of Russia, winter you can't sustain. That's the advantage of Russia.
Get to know.
So getting a piece of land is one thing, sustaining is another.
Yeah.
And that's yet to... PM Modi had a beautiful role here. I'm so glad to see that he went to Russia. I don't know what that internal conversation was, but telling Putin that war is not the answer, have a dialogue.
Yeah.
And a month later, going to Ukraine, having a conversation with Zelensky.
Yeah.
It's a massive thing. It's a massive power. If you can do something like that, you're bringing countries together, not making them fight.
Yeah.
And why do people fight?
Power.
Power is one thing, but it's more about the military complex, the military industrial complex, mainly in the US. What that means is, imagine this happens in the pharma complex as well.
Right.
Pharmacist complex, wherein they would get rich if our health is
Exactly.
not good.
How will they make money when they sell more medicines? But
Imagine if you and I are healthy, we don't need any medicines.
yeah.
Who are going to buy the medicines?
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
The profits goes down.
Yeah.
But imagine we are eating junk. We're eating all processed food. We're eating unhealthy food. It's getting us sick.
Right.
Similarly, if there are no wars, who's going to buy the weapons?
Yeah.
Who's going to buy the ammunition? No one. That's why wars are always profitable for these MNCs, these massive corporations.
Right.
Inhuman corporations, I feel. Imagine the world is in turmoil because of capitalism. Just for bucks, not a few bucks, billions of bucks.
Yeah.
It's saddening to see that, at the end of the day, it's about money.
Yeah.
So this is situation, wars are happening because of this. I feel a strong believer of that. I've heard a lot of people say that, or read a lot of books on it. And sadly, there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do about it. There's a particular deep state in the US that runs all these complexes.
A topic for another day.
Which I don't want to cover because I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And no one does, to be honest. But this is the situation in Russia, Ukraine. One thing I would like our viewers to know that India is, I want to end this with India. India is doing great.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always capacity to be better.
Yeah.
But our diplomacy is getting stronger. Our power in the state is getting stronger. Our reliability is getting stronger. See in the point of Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific is an area which is under the ocean, Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
And we have a stronghold there. Of course, China tries to counter us. Even though China has a massive maritime power, we are yet to be an evolving maritime power.
Yeah.
We are a strong power, but maritime power means that we can fight on any front.
Yeah.
We can send our our ships and our aircraft carriers to any front and fight. Yet to be that, but we are reliable partners in the Indo-Pacific. We're reliable with our friends in West Asia, the friends in Eastern Europe, friends in the West, even though they don't need us. So India is a power until we connect ourselves with another power. So China will see us as a threat only if we are connected to the US, an adjunct power. We are an adjunct power. So China doesn't see us as a threat right now, but it would if we connect ourselves to the US.
Yeah.
But US, for that matter, in geopolitics, is the country which is never a trustworthy country. They are quite brutal when it comes to geopolitics. Non-reliable. Not reliable at all. Rightly so, it's geopolitics. You have to fend for yourself.
Yeah.
Any other question you want to ask?
I think we've covered everything. I hope this covers everything for the viewers for this past year and the year before that.
This has been a great conversation, Arjan. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for hosting me. And
thank you for allowing me to sit on this side.
And it was great to blabber a lot.
Yeah.
I hope I made sense to some viewers. And wish to have you again and interview me again.
Definitely, we will keep doing this again and again. We'll keep getting more and more topics to you guys.
And if there's any particular topic you would wish Arjan should ask me in the following podcast, please share on the in the comments below.
Yeah.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We at TOAP are working really hard to take this podcast to the next level. Our guests are going to get even better. Our production quality is going to get even better. And hopefully, I'm going to get even better too. Most importantly, we are committed to being consistent and continue to do what we love the most. Until then, keep reimagining yourself and know that the power of change lies within you. Jai Hind.